Wherefore Series 2, Episode 5. Simon has started a new job. This is nerve-wracking enough all by itself. He cannot decide if the timing is excellent or terrible. The world is in an unsettled place right now, and this new virus makes him anxious, and he wonders what will happen if it really gets a hold in the UK. Of course, we know what it means to be living in the opening months of 2020 and starting to feel worried about the virus. We are ahead of Simon. He is entirely innocent of what this year has in store for him. Simon will be working outside on behalf of the district council. This is going to be a distinct improvement. An outside job reduces the risk of dozing in the workplace and thus sprouting leaves. However, the remit of the job is weird and vague, so he is in part hopeful and in part uneasy. In his more paranoid moments, he feels like there is something really important they aren't telling him. He is supposed to be measuring, assessing and mapping the material health of the district in terms of its resources and physical infrastructure. Only there are fields for things like anomalies, existential angst, possible hallucinations and discernible dread. It feels like the whole process was designed by a psychogeographer, not an urban planner. The more he thinks about it, the more sure he feels that local anarchist and performer Johnny Fluffypunk started just such a map a few years previously. He wonders if that map still exists and whether it would help him. Simon maps the more mundane things too, the potholes, graffiti, broken street furniture and abandoned detritus. He looks at what might be sculptures in several front gardens and feels discernible dread and struggles to decide whether this is really the kind of dread on his mapping list. He maps incidents of fly tipping and posters for which there was no permission. There is one memorable afternoon spent in Bisley where the mapping app on his laptop keeps asking him to plot evidence of industrial decay, and he realises, firstly, that he doesn't know what would constitute evidence of industrial decay, and that, secondly, this is an area of middle-class housing, so probably there isn't any anyway. The app has a knack for getting in his head. He finds it asking him questions even when he doesn't have the laptop and isn't at work. Walking up the hill on the way home, the app in his head asks him to compare the number of first kisses on this road with the number of shouted arguments as recorded in 2007, and flags up an important correlation with the number of big cat sightings in the area. Simon is fairly used to feeling like he is going mad, and so this worries him less than it would some people. He's dealt with leaf sprouting issues in the last few months. He's dealt with there now being two of him and with the challenge of not being sure which Simon he is or how to relate to Philip anymore. He sleeps on the sofa a lot because he doesn't like sleeping in the same room as the other Simon. He thinks about leaving but cannot decide where to go. He is hungry for something new, something hearty and enriching that is entirely his own. He supposes that this is some sort of midlife crisis and that he should maybe get a motorbike or an electric bicycle. Or maybe a puppy. He eyes up bread-making courses and brewing courses, mocks himself for being such a Stroud cliché, and does nothing. He would quite like a puppy, though. Something with big, dark, affectionate eyes. He dreams about the app, and it shows him the places in town where people have recorded demon summoning and possessed fruit trees. In his dreams, he walks the path the map shows him as traditional migrating routes taken by shrews and pilgrimages to Ditchley that never actually arrive in Ditchley. On waking, he remembers the place name and has taken to leaving himself a note on the calendar every time it happens. He does not know where Ditchley is. The place is not in his mapping schedule. It bothers him and he keeps meaning to look it up online, but it always slips his mind to do so and then he forgets about it until it reappears in a dream. It has been like this for a few weeks now. Simon goes to see a dream therapist. This is an easy thing to do in Stroud. He has a choice of several. The woman doing his consultation is called Marjorie Peaseblossom, and he picked her because she had the most sensible name of the available practitioners. She asks for his date of birth and whether he has any unresolved past life or ancestral trauma. Simon says that he does not know, and Marjorie nods sagely because this is often the way of it. He tells her about the Ditchley dreams. "Did any of your ancestors come from Ditchley?" she asks. Bath, mostly. He thinks in the Mendips, and there's supposed to be some Welsh ancestry on his mother's side, but he really doesn't know the details. "Sometimes Ditchley calls to people," she says. "Have you had any urges to go on a pilgrimage?" "Only when I'm dreaming," Simon says. "Well, perhaps don't go on any long nature rambles by yourself, just to be on the safe side," Marjorie says. Is Ditchley real? Simon asks, feeling both unsettled and excited. I'm not really qualified to comment on that, Marjorie says. There's the question of whether it's real and also the question of whether it exists. I know it exists in much the same way that Narnia and Painswick exist. People believe in them such that they have an existence. Painswick is real, Simon says without much conviction. Marjorie gives him an intense look. Is it, though? What are you really seeing when you look at Painswick? How do you know it's real? Simon shudders. The app that now lives in his head notes the stone as a location for both existential angst and discernible dread. It also thinks there is a pothole under the table. Through sheer force of will, Simon manages not to whimper out loud. Of course, a dream of Ditchley could be purely symbolic, Marjorie says. What does the sixth valley mean to you? There are 5 valleys, Simon says. He thought there were. Ah, there, says Marjorie with the tone of voice that says he is wrong. Stroud 5 valleys, Simon says nervously. He feels a bit sick. Only if you don't believe in Painswick, Marjorie says. Do you ever dream that you were naked and that a giant snake with no face is swallowing you whole? She inquires. Simon says that he does not. What about the dream where you were trying to fly but you can't because there is a Stroud in Bloom meeting taking place on top of you and John Marjoram keeps shouting at you that you must lie still because otherwise you'll frighten the organic produce? Simon has never had this dream. He does, however, have a powerful intuition that this is not how dream therapy is supposed to go. So he makes his excuses and leaves. The app in his head has developed a new tick box for sightings of John Marjoram. Simon has the distinct feeling that the app in his head does not mean him well, but he has no idea how to make it stop. Perhaps he would be safe in Ditchley, he thinks, and then wonders if the voice is his, and if it is not his, who is telling him this? It is not being one of his better days.